Hey, welcome everyone to this week's Midweek Howl. And it's the non-paranormal part of the From the Shadows podcast, in case you didn't know. And me and the Howler are just in an in-depth conversation. Like, let's face it, every conversation we have is in-depth,
Without a
right?
doubt.
Without a
Without a
doubt.
doubt.
And so we just
Sometimes
decided,
it's a shallow subject, but the conversation is always in depth.
yes, yes, the depth isn't that deep. But no, we were talking about how
Urban
Detroit,
development.
yeah, urban develop, how
Urban
Detroit
development.
is. I just heard a report
It's making
about
a comeback.
Detroit's making a comeback, and if anybody who hasn't been to Detroit, um, it's sad. I mean, I think there was a while there it sounded like a very like a city on a steep decline, a lot of urban decay. I worked in Detroit or just outside of Detroit back in the late '90s, and it was kind of rough. They had just built the new baseball stadium, and they
Got a
were
nice
trying.
airport.
Yeah, and so they, I think, gosh, they had a casino come in. Not saying that
Is
helped
the
it
answer.
is the answer. No,
The tax on poor people.
yeah, but I'm
Well,
just
that's
saying
lottery,
it
right?
was a reason for us to go back into Detroit, and they are in some neighborhoods in Detroit if were just unbelievable. Like I think Grosse Point and
Unbelievable
um,
as in beautiful, unbelievable as
well
in
the houses like you can.
they've fallen down.
Yes, but what I've heard and read is some of these big, beautiful neighborhoods have been reclaimed by artists. They became affordable to more working class people who then bought them and refurbished them and have brought back some of those neighborhoods. And it sounds like Detroit in the little town, like was it Rochester? Is it Rochester Hills?
I don't know.
Green. I mean, there's all kinds of little suburbs like any other town that have you know been reclaimed and are being built up and becoming nice again and attractive to people to
And
come
I
and
said
live
we should
there.
just have a moratorium on new construction
Yes.
for a couple
Yeah.
of years. Is what
It,
started. You said I just got to hit record.
yes.
Because
Yeah.
you're about to
So
tell me about all the rundown empty houses you deliver mail around.
no, I don't.
Oh,
I don't. But it led me. So I just quoted you not too, a couple weeks ago. Your whole belief from your traveling around Europe, where they don't really let a lot of new construction go on. They make them
hmm.
people, live in the houses that have been there for
Yeah, you got to
hundreds of.
refurbish what's there.
Yeah, refurbish
Some
what's there.
places like England don't even let you refurbish what's there, but that's a whole different topic.
Well, in Italy, I think it wasn't there a town in Italy they were basically giving away houses for
There's
free.
hundreds of towns in Italy where they give you a house.
Yeah, if you come back and fix it up.
Of course, I think
Well, go ahead.
North Dakota did that a couple of years ago.
North Dakota did that?
Yeah, they had towns and they would give you property. Uh huh. You had
Really?
to live there 3 to 5 years, I think. Yeah, because there's such a population drain in some of those places,
Hmm.
and there's nobody to work. Most of them are ag type jobs, right? Like
Hmm.
giant grain elevators. I mean, some of those grain fields out there, the kind you see on with 5 or 6 combines going side by side. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep. Yep.
And they just don't have anybody to, those towns to work in the elevator, to work the railroad, to. They don't have any town anywhere, so I don't. I mean, they don't have people that are coming there. The kids that grow up there, the few of them.
Can't wait to get out.
Yes, well, the problem is 30 years ago they were all leaving, and now there's nobody. There's not even any kids to leave. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've sure done gone. Yeah.
We'll circle around back to that point when I was at our graduation. Izzy's graduation last night. There's 71 kids in our graduating class,
How
and
many did you have?
I think about
Same
125
school?
ish. Same school. Same school. Yep.
Ours
So
was 159.
yeah. So we'll circle back to that because I have to. But the whole thing that it was we were talking about is I like YouTube has become a network, where a lot of people create a lot of content that, quite frankly, I'd rather watch than another CSI
You a
show.
YouTube TV guy? You subscribe
No,
to YouTube
no, I
TV?
do not. I just watch
You don't
what.
even subscribe. You just
Nope, nope, nope. But I love the urban explorer guys who go basically either
trespass, break in. Uh-huh.
break in or whatever they're doing into those, like some of them are mega mansions and regular houses and houses that have not been
I
step
think
footed.
like in places like Detroit, the taxes are so high. That's why they can't give those houses away.
I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that because that's another crazy thing is,
Because they still tax you like it's $1 million house.
oh yeah, well that can't be. There's
You know what I
there's
mean?
a
So
there's an amendment going up, or they're voting to put the amendment up in Ohio to do away with property tax.
yeah, Missouri's trying to do it now too.
And this would just be a complete disaster if you just did away with it completely. Everything else would cost so much it wouldn't even be
Well,
funny.
that means because you can never afford, you never own your home then, as long as you have property tax. You can
Well,
pay off your $500,000 house and not pay your $2,500 tax bill, and they will take your house. So then we are just a fiefdom. We are just renting from the government.
get that, but how does I read somewhere,
Like here, the property tax pays for the school.
well, it pays for the school, pays for the volunteer fire department, pays for,
You still have a fire tax. You're just not going to be attached to your property tax.
yeah, well, so it's going
Like
to make,
here, here that fire department, volunteer fireman's got a membership, right? So your address better be on the paid dues, or they won't put your fire out. They'll put your neighbors out, but they won't put yours out.
yeah, okay, well, that's
What? You either pay the fee or you don't, man. Sorry.
I know. Does that mean that somebody who is down on their luck to
I
begin
don't.
with
I
should
don't know.
deserve
The
to lose
post. Hey,
everything that they
I
have?
can tell you right now. I can have my whole world in an envelope, and the post office won't mail it without a stamp. So what's the difference?
Hey, listen, it all depends on if you know the
You
right
know, what's the
mailman.
difference?
Get, get, but anyway, that the exploring those abandoned homes right there, like there should be no new building in the United States.
Until they fix up the Packard plant and make some low income housing with it or something.
No, until they go fix up those old houses
You
or
know,
those.
the problem is I don't
What's
even know what I can't even begin to go down this path right now. So let's not
well,
even start.
well, I'm just gonna say I just heard a report that they're estimating within the next, I don't know how many years, Ohio's gonna lose 650,000 residents.
Well, don't tell my buddy that because he's trying to tell me that real estate's going up because there's a housing shortage. And I'm saying, dude, the populations of just about every industrialized country are falling, right?
Well,
So which is it? He's like, well, they got to put these immigrants in something.
oh
Okay,
geez.
so an immigrant, and my buddy's selling a $600,000 house, and I'm like, dude, an immigrant ain't gonna buy your $600,000 house. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. I
Well,
don't care.
well, like I
I
said,
mean,
he
you know
you
how
could
many you
you
know how many
drive.
cats you know how many cats a Haitian that have to skin to get 650,000? Come on, dude.
Well, if we you can't there's house you can't throw a stone around Columbus and not hit a house that's being built outside of the Outer Banks.
Right. But
Okay.
that's because
So
go ahead.
where on earth, if we lose 650,000 people in Ohio, there's going to be a lot of places to live if they want to
Well, I think
put. Just
we
kidding.
are in the 2006. We're about 2006, maybe early 2007, in the newest housing
Crash.
crisis. Yeah, it just has.
Are you
It just
saying if
that
I?
train has hit the brakes, and the rest of these cars have went dung 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 dung. You know what I mean? You know
So
how a
if you're
train
saying if I wait until about when I retire, then
about 24 months,
that's
maybe
when
36.
that's when I can pounce on the house in the Outer Banks.
Yep.
And okay, all right,
I
I'm
wouldn't get
gonna.
one there because the oceans are going to rise and it's going to be gone. But
But that'll be that'll be after I'm gone. So
oh,
because I'm going to tell you right now, since the first time I've went to the Outer Banks, and that's not even been 20 years. There's 2 rows of houses that are missing from the Outer Banks on the beach.
Can you still get them insured? Do those people get? I mean, can they get?
I
Probably
don't
not,
even
right?
know. I don't
Got
even
to be
know.
like Dolphin Island. So those people are. They're not even
Uh,
self-insured. You're just out, right?
well, yeah, I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
even
they
know
do
how you
call it
could.
self-insured, but that's just a fancy word of saying you're just shit out of luck.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right.
Self-insured means you have the money to lose.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Um,
So
but
they've
that,
just fallen in the water.
yeah, the ocean will come and just, uh, it just come and just wash them away. They deem them in uninhabitable, and then the ocean just because and what they try to do, and it's a losing proposition, is they'll bring in sand after trying to um, build up the sand there and make a barrier, and it's not the ocean don't care. It's coming. It's coming for your land. You know what I'm
Uh-huh.
saying? It's coming. But that leads. So we've got a lot of do-it-yourself listeners. A lot of
Hmm.
take care of business kind of
Yes, the kind of
listeners.
people will try to hold back the tide.
Yes. And there is a channel on there that Christy and I actually left in the middle of an episode so we could do this. It's called Scote Outdoors, Skote.
Okay.
And this guy and this girl are living in, I think it's Nova Scotia, and they're on this island, and
Might be chilly this time of year.
it they were just filming on May 12th, so last week, and it was started snowing. But they've reclaimed this. He bought this house. The guy bought this house, and they're fixing it up, and they're really roughing it. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
There's nobody else that lives around them until the summer, and there's fishermen that come out and live on this little island. But it's pretty interesting. The girl's from Virginia, the guy's a Canadian, and they're young. And I just told Christy, the guy left this last week, so she's out there doing the chores with the pit with the they got pigs coming, and they got chickens coming, but she's out there doing the chores with the sheep and the goats
Hmm.
and everything all by herself, and she's got to hold the camera and set it up, talk to the camera, set up the shot while
You
trying to
tell me
feed.
there's no camera people there.
No, oh no. This is their YouTube channel. And they have 342,000 subscribers. I mean, their videos get about 700,000 to a million views. So they're making a good living out there roughing it on YouTube, on YouTube views. But they're doing the work. I mean, it's a lot of work. I mean, okay, I hate to say that doing your own YouTube show is a lot of work compared to somebody going to a factory for 8 or 9 hours. But it's a lot of work. It's just a different kind of work. But these people are out there, you know, their running water is they got a 250-gallon tote up at the top of the hill, and they and they pump the water out of the well at the bottom by their house up the hill into this tote, and then it's gravity fed back down to their house so they could take a shower. Okay, so that's
Right.
and this poor girl all by herself. I bet she ran up, and the guy leaves, and they're out of water, so she's got to do all this by herself, and it's like holy smokes. um I mean, she's a tough girl. I'll tell you that. But she loves it. She loves it. He loves it. It's a pretty good show.
They're probably paying her good money for the show, right?
Yeah, I mean I would they well they got to make decent money. I mean
I mean, I
that
saw a thing where, yeah, some of the, some of them guys make between $10,000 and $15,000 an episode.
oh yeah, if they're getting a million views with
So, you know what I
340
mean?
some,
So,
yeah, oh yeah.
so you paid me a couple 100,000, you wouldn't be surprised what I'd love.
Well, if we get to the point, maybe we could just do our own show and then have people tune into that. I don't even know what that'd be like, following us to the diner every morning where we sat and talked about the world events over corned beef hash and scrambled eggs or something. I don't know. What would our show be?
I don't even, I don't even know. I can't even formulate words of all the stuff that I would talk about, right?
Speaking of that, I'm going to give a shout out to our buddy Stacy Brown, good friend of the shows. Um, Last night, so we're recording this on Sunday, so Saturday night they had and I'll send it to you so you can check it out. Him and some of his friends down there made a short. Now it's a little bit longer than a regular short, but it's a short movie. I think it's 25 minutes long, maybe, about a legend that is famous in Florida. The short's called Tate, and they had the premiere last night in and around Tampa, I think. Sold out the theater, had to turn people away. I am an executive producer on this short, which means I put up some of the capital to help them make it, but they made it on very, very cheaply. Okay. And so we're in the talks now of Stacy wants to finish the movie. Like take this 25 minutes and film the other 45 or 50 minutes and make it a full length feature film. And so we're talking how to do that. And he and I are going to work on the story and um, finish the script. And we're looking for funding for that. Um, but I think there's gonna be a part in there for me and you. He was pretty excited
Well, I
about.
hope it didn't have any words. I seen that Miller was over in Cons, wasn't he?
Well, he's always over in cons. He's always over
Yeah,
there.
I wish
Yeah,
he was. He still hollered at me 2 years ago when I was over there with my brother, but
he's
I don't
he's
know.
always over there. They always got those that Popeye the Slayer man that he is a producer on. Is
That's what's
getting
called Popeye the Slayer.
Popeye the Slayer man
I'm gonna leave it at that.
Instead of Popeye
I'm
the
gonna leave it
Sailor
at that.
Man. Popeye
Uh-huh.
the Slayer,
Yeah,
getting
I'm gonna
terrible
leave.
reviews, but it's doing great.
You think?
Yes, it's doing great.
Yeah.
But anyway,
My kind
Stacy's
of guy. If you don't like the movie, watch it again and then make sure, right?
yes, but Stacy Brown was excited about the prospect of us coming down and playing each having a role in the movie and stuff. So because Stacy's obviously he's a huge fan of the Midweek Howl. So if any of our listeners want to get in on this, um,
You're gonna do a
shoot
you
me a
gonna
message.
crowdfund or something, or what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
Or you
we're
want
not going to
big?
do
You
it.
want big one? You want real investors?
We're
You
not
want
going to
real
do
investors?
we're not going to do a crowd fund. I'm not going to put it out there because the group of guys that we work with that we know, we could probably fund the money. We could probably fund the movie that he
You're
wants
not
to.
supposed to say that.
He could probably fund the movie. But if people want to be involved, we'll
You're doing it for them.
yeah,
You're
we'll do
giving
it.
them the opportunity.
Give them the opportunity to be involved. And I'm going to tell you, I'll send it to you. And what these guys did on the budget they did it with is fantastic. It really is. It's great. The actors they've got playing some of the main parts did a really good job. Um, and I mean they filmed this out in the woods, like out in the swamp and the woods and stuff. That's not easy. And they did a really, really good job. So my hat's off to them. Tate, hopefully the full length feature movie will be coming out. Hopefully we'll get to work on this and it'll get done. And maybe next year at this time we'll be at a premiere in Tampa for the full length feature. Who knows? Before it gets on Netflix or something, you know? So there you go. So you get that to look forward to. So you better bone up on your acting chops.
I was watching a thing on Dennis Hopper
Yeah.
when he was doing. He was talking. about, he was doing an interview probably in the early 2000s,
Okay.
but when you use the term super, it was cut with all this stuff during Apocalypse Now.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
he's explaining
Mm-hmm. Yep.
why he was so screwed up. Have you seen any of his interviews or any of that stuff?
I
Do you
have
know?
not, but
Do
he
you know
was
what
so
his first big movie was? I mean, you know what his big over the top, what he was the
well. He
producer, director, writer of.
well. He was originally in Rebel Without a Cause.
Well, I'm talking about what made him what made him like $3.5 million in one
Yeah.
check in one day in $1968.
Was
Easy Rider.
Easy Rider. Yeah. But
And
did you hear his
that completely
destroyed him?
well, I mean, it didn't completely destroy him, but
Because
it
of all
set
the
him back
money.
30 years. Yeah, because he between the cocaine, the drinking, the whip, you know what I
Oh,
mean? Between I
yes.
mean, you give any 26, I don't want to say, I'm not sticking up for him, but I didn't hear him say it like this, but I heard somebody from a singer, you give a 22, 23-year-old kid, I think Hopper was 26 when he did it. You give a 26-year-old guy $3.5 million one day, and in today's world, what would that be? 35 million?
It'd be a lot. I don't know if it'd be 35 million, but it'd be a
You know what I
lot.
mean? It
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
they don't
yeah.
even.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but the thing, his origin story was he was in Rebel Without a Cause with James
James,
Dean,
yes,
and he had a significant supporting role to James Dean. And he basically made the director so mad that the director cut every single one of his lines and
on
basically
purpose.
on purpose cut all of his lines, cut anything important he had, and said, and now you will never work in this town again if I have anything to do with it.
Yeah, I knew that. I think he
It-
talked about that. He said that's bullshit because he got to work. It only took him 7 more years.
well, but if you're an actor, that's a long time,
Not when your
especially.
next time's $3.5 million worth.
Well, yeah, okay, you're right. But yeah,
So where I was going with my acting chops, I watched the thing on him. I watched the thing on Brando. So I think if I pack on another 50 pounds and lose my mind, I'll be just right for some of these scenes.
well, if this is taking place in the swamp, we might be able to put you in a hut and cover you up in a towel and have you sit in the corner all hot and sweaty.
Yeah.
And what was that?
Which they had to do all them scenes in the dark because of the way he looked. Did you know that?
No.
Yes, that's why they look like that because he showed up so fat and he didn't get the Elvis comeback refurb. He got the you know what I mean? I watched the thing and I don't know how we get on Hollywood like this, but I just find it so interesting when people badmouth each other in Hollywood. So I watched Burt Reynolds' interview because Burt Reynolds really loved him. Okay. I'm
Loved
talking in the
loved
50s.
Brando or loved
Yes.
Burt Reynolds? Burt
Burt
Reynolds.
Reynolds loved Brando.
Okay.
And he was being I guess courted or not courted, but he was being compared to a young Brando. You know what I mean? Like he was the
Hmm.
new Marlon Brando.
I think everybody probably was back in the 60s and 70s that was
And you know what's
young. Yeah.
crazy when you see him in like 1959, 60, when he was doing some of the cowboy
Wes
stuff he was doing,
Oh,
he
Burt Reynolds. Burt
Burt
Reynolds.
Reynolds,
Yeah.
he looks like Brando did in the 20s and 30s. You know what I mean?
Really? You think
Yeah.
so?
Yeah, I think
Hmm.
so. So not as big, but yeah. Anyway, to make a long story short, he says that he was at some breakfast place in L.A. in the he was just coming out, late 60s, early 70s. I think it was late 60s. So he'd been in some stuff, and he was with somebody that was good enough to be able to go and say, "I'll introduce you to Marlon Brando."
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So whoever he was with was a big enough gun that said, "I can take you over there." And Burt Reynolds says, I tell him I'm a big fan. Don't be too cheesy about it. And maybe it was right before they did Deliverance. Would that have been late 60s, early 70s?
I think Deliverance was early like 73, 74, something like that.
So maybe he had done a couple of his hot rod things, like Gator and White Lightning,
Okay. Yeah.
and maybe he was about to do that one, or it was about to come out, or whatever. Okay, so make a long story short, he just said whoever went over there and talked to, basically Brando didn't acknowledge him, didn't look at him, and said, "I think he's I think I might have heard of him, but I think he's overhyped or something." And he was standing right there, and Reynolds was going, "This freaking guy." He said, I was thinking about punching him upside the head, because I'm Florida, baby. I'm Florida,
I'm
I'm
Stacey
Alabama.
Brown.
Yeah,
Burt
I'm not
Reynolds and Stacey
Alabama.
Brown.
I'm not a Hollywood Jack, and you think you fat old man's gonna sit there and disrespect me?
I played football at the University of Florida.
Right. He's like, what are you talking about? I like Jackie Gleason, for Christ's sake. So and he basically said, after that, I never tried to meet it. I never went out of my way to meet anybody in Hollywood. Now, if they came to me, I was decent and nice to them. But he said, there's a thing about meeting your heroes, right?
Oh yeah.
And he said,
Yeah.
I knew it, I've heard it, and he said it's true. And especially if your heroes are in Hollywood or the entertainment business, he said, just stay away from them. Just buy the album or watch the movie, and because if you meet them, you're going to be let down.
Our buddy David Wade used to tell people who would be so excited about wanting to meet David Allen Coe, and he'd be like, it's it's not going to be as good. Oh, it'll be great. I'm going to have so much to talk about. And everybody was just, unless you were a member of the Outlaws or somebody that actually knew him from
Or you
back
had a
in the
gift
day.
card if you were the pit boss at Caesar's Palace or at
No, 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 no. But if you were somebody who actually genuinely knew somebody he knew or something, and had
right.
something to talk, he would light up and he'd talk. Or if you were an outlaw, if you were like the motorcycle gang or veteran, he always would talk to veterans and stuff. But just some average Joe who showed
Wanted the
up,
album signed or something.
he would barely talk. He just didn't care. And I suppose you'd get like that, after so many times.
After you signed 1 million
Yeah,
autographs, or
yeah, yeah, yep. But okay. So I want to circle back to graduation. So we had graduation last night, and it's kind of bittersweet. It's Izzy's the last one going through. So I've had 4 girls graduate from the same school that I went to, and I'm sitting there, and and Christy had me
is it
sit on.
outside or inside?
It was inside because it was too windy last
Okay.
night. Okay. So usually they have it outside, but I've never been to the one. None of my girls, they were all inside for some reason. The weather didn't cooperate. So I'm sitting there,
God was crying when your girls walked out.
who was?
The Lord sent down tears in bad weather.
Yes.
He was sad that your girls were leaving that school.
Yeah.
Heavenly place.
But I was sitting there with my mom. So my mom was in one of the first classes of the school because it consolidated in the 60s or whatever.
Okay.
So she was probably in like 3rd or 4th class or whatever. And then, my stepdad, he graduated there in the late 70s and stuff. And I'm just sitting there and I'm just thinking, wow, we like the amount of graduations we have seen as a family and have had to go through here. As I'm listening to these, the kids, the 2 guys that were the co-valedictorians, and the one guy kept talking about what was to come and the hard times and all this. And I'm thinking, boy, you're 18 years old. You haven't even seen a hard time.
Maybe that school was hard to him.
No, he had to graduate with a 4.2 grade point average.
You know how much hard that would have to do that?
I don't know. He did.
I don't understand all that. And did they give like the top 10 kids valedictorian, salutatorian. If you had over 4.0, you did all that stuff.
So
Like when
is
I
he?
was in school, you had the number one and the number two. There wasn't all this
Well, these guys tied. They had the
other
highest
stuff.
GPA. They were both
Yeah,
4.2.
that's a lie.
It's
Was one a
not.
boy and one a girl?
No, they were both boys.
Okay,
Um,
because my class, they said we had a tie,
well,
and one was a boy and one was a girl, and we think it's a BS. They just didn't want to do that to the girl.
well, well, when I graduated, we had four people that had 4.0s. So we had four people give a speech along with the class president. But
And we had three people, not to outdo you. I think I told you. I know two of them off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure Mikey Walken was the third that didn't miss a single day from kindergarten to 12th grade. They'd never missed a day of school.
holy moly.
Rusty Dudenhafer was one. I shouldn't say his name on the record. Stuart Kelling was the other one. And I'm pretty sure Mikey Walken, God rest his soul, he died last year. Probably because he left all his energy in school. They didn't miss a single day of school in 13 years.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I remember when I was a little kid, I had a lot of surgeries. I had tubes in my ears. I had my tonsils out. I had
Should have made you go.
pneumonia a couple times. I was in the hospital. I couldn't go. And I missed. So, I mean, I think the first year was in fourth or fifth grade where I did not miss any school. And after that, I did everything I could to not miss school until I was a senior. Then I didn't miss school. I just didn't like being in school so much. But
By the time I was a senior, they said it didn't matter if I was there or not. So
well, kids these days now barely go to school.
I
He
don't
great?
even understand. They would do online.
It-
We got a super fan. We got a super couple fan.
yeah.
Okay. My Dr. Yo-Yo, he knows who he is, and his lovely wife. They're both teachers. Actually, he just retired this last year. This is his first year without running the thing, which I was texted him. Our daughters graduated, and he was somewhere in the crowd. And our superintendent is a PhD doctor. I don't want you to think she's giving heart surgery. Okay. And she talked and talked and talked in such eloquently, flowery language about, you know what I mean? So she's in front of 700 people who's praying that it ain't going to rain, who's half of which has got to go, half the grandpas have got to go pee. It's like, dude, let's get it on. You can't even imagine the pomp and circumstance. And we were
Exactly.
texting, and I was like, dude. And he said, well, she likes to talk. I wish you were back up there. And anyhow, I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, before we rail on school too much, we got some teacher fans. We got teacher fans.
Teacher fans. Okay.
Fans.
I think we have some. I think I know some teacher fans, but I'm not sure. I had somebody approach me last
I
night.
started to say something along with that, but I forgot, and I keep going.
Okay, I had somebody approach me last night and tell me they were a big fan of the podcast, and they had been having a lot of fun listening. They live on my mail route. Okay, and I had actually seen him earlier in the day. He had gotten a package, but it wasn't until afterwards I was telling Christy, I go, now I don't know if he's a fan of this podcast or he's a fan of the podcast the judge and I did for the local radio station about the Crawford County legends, about the sports legends. And so I have no idea if he was, because I'm like, I had to put some stickers in his mailbox. But then I'm like, maybe he won't even know what I'm doing. If I put in the From the Shadows and Ozark Howler stickers, you might not even know what I'm doing, what they are. So I guess I had to clarify a fan of what podcast. I just can't assume somebody's a fan of Bigfoot. I don't know.
Everybody's a fan of Bigfoot.
Although I do, I see people. It's amazing how the
Bigfoot is.
the Bigfoot merchandise people love.
Yes.
You know, I go to this one apartment complex, and it's not particularly a high income apartment complex, but they have I kid you not, a 9-foot steel cutout of Bigfoot by their front door.
I went up. I got a hunting property in North Missouri,
Mm-hmm.
and it's surrounded by giant kind of rolling hill farms. I don't know. Is it real flat where you're at, or is it kind of got some hills and terraces?
It's pretty flat here.
Okay. So my neighbor, the guy that owns the farm to the north of me,
Hmm.
to the west of me, to the south of me, his dad. Anyway, we're talking sections. The one across the road from me is over probably 900 acres in one connected place. And about 3 years ago, the I'm gonna say the grandson, because a lot of this stuff, grandpa's died, and now the dad is in his 70s, and the son that lives right there on the property just north of me is a little younger than us. But his dad's not only a big farmer, but he's a dirt guy. He's got high lifts and dump trucks and all this other
Yeah, yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And
Fix the
about
plant.
3 years ago, straight to the west of me, he's a big duck hunter, and he had a plan. When they redo these terraces, have you ever seen them redo these terraces, put pipes? Anyway, they started working on this field. Like, they were always fighting erosion. They were always fighting on this, and it's like I said, it's a section and a half. So all that's to say is this: he made a giant lake, and when I say giant lake, probably 35 acres.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Okay, and
Hmm.
then he built this little old cabin that he told me it was. I thought he said 24 by 32, but man, it don't look that big. And he's got a boat dock, and when they were doing the water before it filled in, they put big stones down in there, and they built just all the stuff. So I have since kind of got. I didn't really know him before. The guy I bought my land from knew him, was buddies, because they were about the same age and knew each other for 35 years. But last year, when they were row cropping, I come over to cut my grass. Now I got 40 acres with a pond, a little pond, some woods, and I got this crappy old camper. But the way they pull into the farm to the north of me, they drive across a CRP piece of mine. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
Yep.
they've always done it. I've never said anything to it. So when I go to pull in my camper, there's this. When I say big tractor, there's a with the, it's unfolded. It was a combine with a grain head that was so big. It was so big they couldn't drive. They had to take the head off to drive down the road. You
Oh
with
yeah.
me?
Yeah. It's
But they
probably
just
about a
pushed.
40. What about a 40-footer or something?
Yeah, so they had two of them, and the one of them they just drove across and parked it by my place just to get it out of the way. Does that make sense? Like, just go park it over there,
Hmm.
because I'm not there, because I live 100 miles away. I just happened to pull in that day. So anyway, I start talking to the guy, and he tells me how it cost him $11,000 for him to run the electricity over to it, and this, that, and the other. Well, yesterday I was up there. I cut my grass. I was leaving, and over by the lake, there's kind of like one or two big trees he left when he did this, and I can't tell if it's a bear or a Bigfoot. But when I say I'm seeing it from a quarter mile away. It's 4.5, 500 yards across there, and it's either one of those big stone Bigfoots you see. You know what I'm talking about, like the 6 or 7 foot
Yeah. Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
dart on it. It's either that or a bear.
Okay. So I'm going to ask
So
you this.
here's this random farmer slash dump truck dirt guy,
Loves Bigfoot.
or bears, one or the other. I don't know.
So let me ask you this. So I hear these eyewitnesses, and we hear, I talk to them, and they'll say, I saw this thing 3, 4, 500 yards away, and it was just looked big, it looked way bigger than a bear, looked way bigger than a human or something like that. I cannot judge how far 400, 500 yards is, because
Well, a 40 acre, you know what, a 40 acre, a section's what, 640, and then
Mhm.
it's 320. So,
Okay.
a section road. So 160 would be 440s. You know what I'm talking about?
Okay.
You don't know. I've done lost you.
No, no, no. A
The
sec.
40 acre square
Yeah.
is about 400 yards.
So 40-acre
So that
square.
square is about 400 yards across there.
Okay. Well, yeah, but No, would it?
Yeah,
No. A 40 a Why would a 40-acre square, about an acre is 100 yards?
an acre's not 100 yards. You're talking about an acre's about the size of a football field,
Yeah.
is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. If you got 40 of them, a 40-acre square,
Okay.
okay,
So it'd be
that
what?
is,
Five, four,
that's
five.
fours.
How many would that be?
Well,
And
I'm letting you process it here.
so I was like, math is not my strong suit. That's what I'm saying. So so 40-acre
Let's just go
square
quarter mile. How far
would
is a
be,
quarter of a mile?
oh, I don't know
Let's
how
just
many.
do it that way. Because a section is a mile by a mile.
Yeah, a section's a mile by a mile.
So a
So,
half would be a half, and a quarter would be a quarter mile.
yeah.
So I got my calculator here on my phone, and
And what's a section? Like
I think
640
hold on.
acres or something?
Yeah, let's not even go that. I don't want to confuse you here. That's why my postage stamps keep going up because
I'm not in
your
charge. I'm not in charge.
your managers, the people that have been able to navigate the system better than you, are in charge. And in anyway, a mile, feet in a mile. Let's go that. Feet
Okay.
in a mile is 5,280. I was going to say 5,260. So let's just go 5,280.
Okay. So divided by four
4.
would
Hold on a second.
be
I'm here. 5,280 divided
300
by
and
4
some.
equals 1,320. Let's just say divided by 3 feet to a yard, right?
Hmm.
It's 440 yards. I thought that's what it was. Ed's probably answered me 10 times because he's a rifle shooter. So 440 yards. But back to it being bigger than a bear.
Yeah.
Now, that is somebody that's never been out west and seen. I mean, you go to Yellowstone and see what a true 8 or 9 foot grizzly bear is, and it's like a
Yeah. Okay.
steer.
Okay.
It's like a year-old steer that can walk on his hind legs. You know what I mean?
Well, I get that. I get that there's bear that big, but if you're in a place where you know there's no bear that big,
Right.
okay,
South Missouri, where a bear might be 150 pounds.
or like in Ohio where black bear don't get that big.
Well, I don't know. I've seen some.
Seen some big ones, some that big.
Well, I mean, you
Okay.
just get
Anyway,
anything.
I didn't say black bulls, black bears. Um,
Okay.
so
They're too big for the Haitians.
I'm just saying, I'm just saying how, like,
I think they frighten them because they're so big. So I think emotionally these guys think they're bigger than they are. Does that make sense?
I get you, but like but what I'm trying to do is I'm standing on the street, because I'm out there, I'm listening to a lot of these, and I'm on the street delivering mail, and I'm like, okay, so from here to the railroad track, I'm
A
trying to
city
like,
block is how much? City
I have no
block is how many
idea.
feet?
I have no
Oh
idea.
my gosh, it's a normal city
I
block.
But I don't know. Is the city block the same everywhere?
Uh, Generally speaking, yes, because there's 10 blocks to the mile, right?
So that would make it what,
Don't tell me
five?
you don't know that.
No, I
How
don't.
many
That's something
blocks in a mile?
I did.
City
Listen. If
block
I really paid
in
attention to
a
how much I
mile.
walk, I would quit. Okay, I don't want to.
You'll find between 10 and 20 blocks per mile, depending on the city. Some cities like Chicago have 8 blocks per mile in one direction, while others like New York have 20 blocks to the mile in the other direction.
See, so there's no standard.
So I think, but some of that goes back to the feet length, all the way back to the Bible, right?
Well, okay. I guess for feet distance for.
I I told it.
I mean, I'd go back to the
I
Bible
told
for.
Doc. I told Doc the other day at graduation. I said because he said, "Man, I don't have your number." And this was the couple nights before graduation. So then we were texting. I told him, I said, I want you to be the official from the shadows. Answer the Amish beard. That's what he wanted to tell me. They grow a beard when they get married, so that way they
Okay,
know that they're married. Instead of wearing a wedding ring, I guess it's so you know that they're married.
so you know that. Okay.
So I told him he's going to be the official lifeline, but I'm sure I could reach out to him and he would probably be pretty good at telling me the links.
I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to in Bucyrus, when I see one of the street guys, I'm going to ask them what they are in Bucyrus, because they're nowhere close to what we're talking about in Chicago or New York. There's no way. Like the side streets from one block to the next, there's no way there. It's
Okay, in Bucyrus, Ohio, is similar to other Midwestern cities and towns.
mhm.
A typical block in this region is roughly 330 feet by 660 feet. This means that approximately 16 east-west blocks or 8 north-south blocks would make a mile.
So a north south. How many did you say? 16 north south
330
feet. So they're about 100 yards.
east-west and 660,
So
which
they're
would
about
be
two.
200,
Okay. So about two.
200,
Yeah. Okay. All right.
yeah, 220 yards,
Okay. All right.
north-south.
Okay. So my first street is north south. So as I head out, I'm going to take a look down the block and I'm going to guess that that's 200 yards, a little over 200 yards. Doesn't seem like it, but that's what I'm asking. So as you're looking across that pond at that cutout, can
It's
you?
every bit of 400. I probably don't go right now and measure it.
It's every bit of. So as you see that cutout, does it? And you think it's what 7, 8 feet at least in
It's
size?
probably 7 feet. Yeah, because the one that I always liked that's for sale up here,
Mm-hmm.
I stopped one day and he's thick like a gorilla, but he's not 7 foot tall. He's about 6.5, 6 foot, 6.5. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So but you're looking across that far, and you could tell that whatever that is, whether it's a silhouette of a bear or Bigfoot,
It's not
or
a silhouette. I mean, it's a 3D.
it's a big.
Yeah,
So,
it's a
but you can tell it's bigger than a regular guy from 400 yards away.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I could be like me or Refrigerator Perry or somebody, but you know,
Speaking of gorilla, how funny is
there
the?
was an
How,
Indian there was an Indian at the graduation the other night. We seen the night before because his kid graduated with my daughter,
so a guy from
and he
India,
was
okay,
no like from the Ogallala Sioux or like from Oklahoma.
so Native American, Native American,
Let me tell you, this son bitch was big enough you'd called him chief, and he had a
like
shirt on.
from
He's probably our age,
the guy
probably
from
6'5", 6'6".
One Flew Over the
He was
Cuckoo's Nest, big like
on
that.
Tuesday. I'm sorry, on graduation night, the second night I saw him. His shirt said, "Wait something." I
Oh,
had to go through my pictures. So,
okay.
he was obviously a bodybuilder that
Hmm.
stayed with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he had this giant. The only thing I cared for him, he kept flipping his hair like a girl because he had this long coal black mane of hair, and he would be flipping it. You know what I mean? I'm like, dude, come on. How are you going to be a badass? I mean, how are you going to kill Custer flipping your hair? You know what I mean?
And, and- anyway, so take that guy, that big guy. So have you seen the one gorilla versus 100 man question that they threw out there and did some AI
Well, part
to?
of it depends on the gorilla, and part of it depends on the man.
Do you do you really think like I don't know, I mean a gorilla seems so imposing. It's so angry. I don't think do you think you could get 100 guys that were that?
Well, wouldn't they wear him down over time?
I don't know. But how far would you have to wear a gorilla down to have him just be an average strength? The strength of an average man. Don't you think after he tore off the first 3 or 4 guys' arms and beat him to death with it, that the next 20 or 30 would kind of,
Okay, I measured to where I think this thing is
yeah.
on the outside, and that might be a little. What I can't tell is because Google Earth, the new, I can see the hillside and the trees. What I don't know is which trees he left and which ones of these entombed. On the outside, it's 1,155 feet.
Okay.
which used to be 400 yards.
Yeah.
Hey, that's right. Road hunting 101, baby. You got to know how far that is. You only get one shot.
Well, I'm gonna circle back before we jump off
No,
here.
I don't think 100 dudes could beat up on a gorilla.
Yeah, I don't think either. 1,000 maybe, but I don't think 100. But
Why would they want to? Is what I never could figure out.
I don't know. But so we're at graduation. I'm pondering, my last
Did
days.
they say, hey, at yours, did they say, how many of y'all have kids? If they did new kids, they did grandkids. How many of you guys have graduated from this high school?
They did not ask that.
And then they went to grandkids, great grandkids. And there was an old woman up behind me, and she got great grandkids. Dr. Yo, that I'm talking to here, his father-in-law was the grandson. His wife went there. His father-in-law went there. I think what he say, he's a 64 graduate.
Okay. Which is about
I've seen.
Which is about
not that long, right? 64 is not that long ago. Somebody else was
that's 60 years ago. That's 61 years ago.
Well,
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking right here, and it says
so he's like President Biden's age. He's not even President Biden's age.
No, but anyway, as I was sitting there pondering, like being part of the community and, how much, we had given back and how you stay, how do you stay part of the community when you don't have kids in the school and all this really deep philosophical stuff. I see the principal, who is a lady who is 2 years older than me in school, great girl. And she's a really good principal. And she's up there on stage as they're handing out diplomas.
Did you know her back in high school or anything?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we graduated with there's 7. Yes, I know her family. Her sister lives on my mail route. I mean, yes, we go way back.
Creepy stalker. Go ahead.
We go way back. Yes, we go way back. And I see Julie. I see her looking around, and she just goes running off the stage. And you could see her run off the stage through the cafeteria back towards her office. And the kid who is the secretary, who is doing the name call, all of a sudden you see him look over his shoulder and he goes, "What? We ran out of diplomas."
Did they give them to him? But our kids got essentially empty holder, and they get a file this week. I told my brother that today, and he never even heard of that. I said, yes.
Yeah.
I said, they just give them an empty thing, and
that's what they and they ran out of empty things. They didn't bring enough of them out.
They didn't know they're she's a principal. She's not a math teacher. She didn't know how to count.
Well, listen, we had 71 kids and 2 people didn't show up. We should have had extra. You know what I'm saying?
They didn't show up for their own graduation?
No, they didn't show up for their own graduation.
Because they were upset, or because they got arrested, or what?
I think they were working because they
Amen. Yeah. Kids like that's going to save this country right there.
Well, hey, they figured, why waste another night when I could be paying your and my Social Security, right? They need to get to work, paying so we can collect our Social Security.
I think it's already gone, dude.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.
God only knows what's hiding